from living on the streets and moving from home to becoming a successful entrepreneur in the area of auto body repair technician reflects the life of Wayne Forrester. Mr. Forrester is a husband and a father. He has been married for 36 years to his partner of 47 years and is the father of 5 children and 13 grandchildren. He owns and operates Wayne Forrester's Garage as well as Forrester's exclusive honeybee farm. He is a minister of religion at the One-Way Chapel Apostolic Mt Carey and serves as the assistant pastor at Mount Pleasant One-Way Chapel Apostolic House of Prayer and Praise for All People. Mr. Forrester is a lover of people who takes great pleasure in sharing his home and other resources with those in need. He is also a strong believer in devoting much time and energy in spreading the gospel of Christ and has spent over 20 years with his wife doing same. He testifies today of the goodness and the grace of God in taking him to a stable place in his life and continues to work in the kingdom of God for the glory of God. Viewers, meet Mr. Wayne Forrester.
Bye.
Uncle Wayne, Wagwan, what's up?
Good evening to you, my lady.
How are you?
I'm good.
Great. It's great to have you on Define the Odds. Welcome to Define the Odds. Today you will be telling us about your journey. And as we heard in the introduction, it was quite a journey from moving from home to home. At one point you were even living on the streets to now becoming a successful entrepreneur and a man of God. So talk to us, Sir Forrester. How did you grow up? Where were you born? And what was your childhood years like?
Yes, I was born in a little district in Hanover called Kingston.
Mm-hmm.
That's 8 miles from the town of Lucy. I was born by a nanny. I was taken by a nanny, not by the hospital, because in those days, I don't think there was a hospital in Lucy town as yet.
Okay.
And while I was in Cashel, my mother left at early stage with me, and we went on to live in St. Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
And while living in St. Elizabeth, my mother got a job at the Hanover primary school as a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was a little boy. She almost had no one to stay with me, so she sent for some family member to come and stay at the home with me while she were there. But after a while, the family member had to move on, so she had to take me to school with her sometime. But at school with her, with a little baby boy, it was much difficult for her. So she had left me with some relatives in Hanover while she were at school.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to sleep over there, and she went on with her life for a while. Then she decided now to move on from there. I was going more. She decided to move on from there. So she decided to go to England to live with her parents.
Mm-hmm.
So she took me to Cambridge, where she had some family members and things.
Yes.
She left me with some people and she went off to England. That time I was at the age of 6.
Okay.
Then now, while she left me there and went off, she said she's gone to make a better life for me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear from my mother again. And the people who she left me with, they did not take good care of me. After a while, they start to say they are not hearing from her, and they are not getting any response, not sending any money, and they need money to take care. So they didn't even send me to school.
Wow.
They used me to do their work.
Okay.
So as a little boy in the community of Cambridge, I have to carry water, look wood, and all those stuff, clean up the place, all those stuff I do. And while there sometimes I would do something that they say is wrong, so I would have to run away as a little boy in the district, sleep under some house bottom, sleep under the railway station, and at nights I would come out like a rat and steal or something out of somebody market basket to eat. I would go to the shop, take off some saltfish tail off the shop counter or in the pickle barrel somewhere to get something to eat. And in the days I would run out to the bushes, and it was a very rough time for me here. And sometimes they would send some bigger member to catch me and take me home back. But after I get home back with them, something happen again that I have to make another run for it again. So it keeps going on because the hard work is on me, and a lot of beating, it caused me to run off sometimes. So
and you were just 6 years old. You were 6 years old.
While on the street, sometimes I would go to the school in Baker Step and play with the children on the street. And then when school bell ring, I would run off in the bushes while the children gone back to school. But while living those type of life, people would see me, sorry for me, and say, "Oh, little boy, come here, give me something to eat," if they feel like, and ask me to do something for them, to carry a piece of food for them or something. But in the era, it's as if I didn't have any parents.
Right.
So then one day, one morning early, I just wake up from under the train line, under the train station, and that's where the diesel come out. And just as I came out there,
and this is Uncle Wayne, this is the train station at Cambridge, right? This is the Cambridge railway station.
Yes, that's the railway station. I used to sleep on it. Just as I came out in the morning early when the diesel come up, because you have to come out to let anybody know that it's there, I sleep. I saw someone pointing out of the diesel and said, Mommy, there's Wayne there. And then I looked, it was a cousin of mine, I remember, you know, he and his mother were on the train. It was my auntie was on her way to Kingston. She came to look for her children. And she was on her way to Kingston to get the plane to go back to England. So what she did when she saw me, she threw the orange that she was eating through the window to me and some copper. So I picked them up and quickly, and they were waving to me, and I ran, and she was leaving out, and I run, waving my hands as if, well, then I was in a desert, and it was the last thing for me, and the train was gone out of sight. And I cried. And in another about 3 days from that, or 4 days from that, yes, I heard somebody said that somebody's looking for me. And I didn't know, because I did not know my father. But there was a man in the district tell me that he know my father, and he was a very good friend of mine. He used to give me something to eat, and used to, when him see me, him give me good encouragement. Little boy, don't go down there. You know, because I used to go to the river, you know, and bathe by myself and swim in all of those places, because I had nobody cared for me when I run away, you know. So now, one night I went to my bed, and I went to my bed because I was back at home at the lady's house, and I used to sleep in a blue jean crocus bag. And I noticed somebody came and called her, and she put the door halfway and make a sign to me to get back under the bed, you know. And she spoke to someone. I didn't know who it was. But the morning early, she got up and she gave me some clothes and said I must get a bed, and I put on the clothes. They were so big, they were somebody else's old clothes, but I put them on. And she decided, she and another lady, to take me somewhere. We were walking up the road going towards Fern. when suddenly as I came out from under the tunnel, there was this car that the same man that said, no, my father. There was these two men in the car stopped, and the men them said, come here. And the lady said, I must run. And the man said, come here. And I obeyed the man because I remember that the man said him, no, my father. So as I run here to the car, they just pull me into the car and drive off with me. And they went straight to the police station. When I went to the police station with them, my father took off my shirt and he looked at me back and he said, oh my God, look at my child. And he bathed me, went and buy some nice clothes for me, went to the barber shop and let me get a trim. And the people in the district was so amazed to know that I suffered so much and I had parents. Wow. And everybody was proud in the place to say, my God, this little boy have parents. And that was the first time I knew my father now.
And that happened because you were saying that your auntie would have said it to grandfather.
Yes. My auntie, what happened is that when my auntie reached to England, our son began to tell my grandfather and my grandmother what they saw Wayne at the train station, and he was tore up and stayed bad and things like that. And then now they called my mother downstairs and asked my mother, how you say you left him with your father? And they put her out that night, what I understand. They put her out in the cold at England. They were living in Bristol. And that's when she contacted my father by a telegram note and telling him where I was in Cambridge. And that is when my father went for me to take me from Cambridge. Because I remember I was at Cambridge as a little boy when Jamaica got independence. And when my father took me from Cambridge, before he even do that, he asked me, who do my back like that? And when I tell him take me to the person, man, a big man, you know? And I climb up in the chest and take out the medicine, the thing that he used to beat me like animal, and give it to my father. My father had to give him 2 of it.
Wow.
He was wicked. Yes.
Wow.
And it took me to the man that know my father as friend, took me and my father, I think, to somewhere near where we could, I think it's Santa Cruz. Yes. That we could get a vehicle from Santa Cruz to go to Kingston because my father did not have a car.
Okay.
And, yes. And that's when now my dad take me to Kingston to live with his mother.
Okay.
After living with his mother in Mullines Road, that was a place now where all the children from country that is related to my grandmother, that is my father's mother, come to live there.
Okay.
And to see my grandmother.
Okay.
My grandmother was a hard-working woman. She washed clothes for people. She works at the general post office to clean the post office. So she works at night, come home like after 10 in the night, and she cooked lunch for like my father, some other men that have that work, and they would come lunchtime and cook. So when she cook now, she would give me my dinner from in the middle day when everybody, and she had to go to work early. So she took off to work, and I was there. But I had bigger siblings there, like my cousins and all of them things, and it was hard for my grandmother because it was only 2-room house, a board house, living in Mullines Road. So my grandmother decided to talk to my father, and they made an arrangement to send me to live with one of the men who used to come there to eat lunch in the days. He didn't have any children.
Okay.
And his wife didn't have any children. So I went to live in Walton Park Road, just nearby Mullines Road. I went to live in Walton Park Road. But while there, living there, his wife, I used to follow her to like the market in the days, in the Saturday morning, and she would always be there. But the problem with her, she was very miserable, and because she don't use the children. So we couldn't get on as a little boy the way how she wanted. So she decided that she don't want no picnic, neither. So they had to take me away from there. After taking me away from there, my father took me to his home in Harborview to live with his family. That is my, what would you say now? That is my father's wife and children.
Yes.
Yes, stepmother. So they took me, I started to go to school. At that time I was about going up to 10 now. I started to go to Harborview Primary School.
And this was your
Yes.
first time, apart from when you were a little boy and was just following your mother to school. This was your first time going to school.
First time going to school, yes.
Wow.
So now, while going to Harborview School as a little boy, I was so done because I never started to get a reading book like Nola book and those books. The books that I got was like Alibaba and the 40 Thieves and those books that is far ahead of me.
Okay.
So I couldn't learn much from them. So they put me in a class called the Dunce class, where you learn everything.
Mm-hmm.
While there now, my stepmother was not somebody who fascinated of me like that. She because all the other children was lawful children and I was the black one, because they were brown. I didn't get a nice life, and she was going off now to America to work. So she said she would never want to leave me there with my father and my brother and sisters. So my father had to find somewhere to send me. So he
had to go back now.
He decided then to send me off to the country where he is from in Westmoreland. So he took me there himself, and I went to Westmoreland to live with my uncle, my granduncle, yes, and his family. They were all brown people. I started to go to Williamsfield School. While going to Williamsfield School, it was just in front of the schoolyard. In front of the school I was living. School begins at 9 o'clock in the morning, but I have to go to bush to feed the cow them. I had to carry water, I had to look wood, I had to do all these things. So I always late for school in the morning. When I reach at the school door, the teacher would just in time to give me 2 cane wherever I catch me. And I still there. Sometimes the lady would come and say, "Teacher, lend me the boy, and the cow get wet, and I have to leave out of school to go across the river to catch the cow them and all of those things." So I didn't have much time in learning much to school, but the headmistress has fallen in love with me because I was a person who loved drama very much. So I remember some of the drama that I learned at Harborview School, like the statue and some religious plays. So when they're going to have concert at school, I would tell them about these things and act it, show them, and then they would let me act it. Whenever I act those shows, they make money and it's lovely. So the chief principal loved me very much, And I used to be there until something happened, because what happened, whenever you find, say, you're getting so many abuse, I want to go somewhere else, I want to leave. So I started to do things that they don't expect that I would do. Until one day, something happened at school, a teacher used a ruler to chop me in the head. And I went outside and took a stone and bust her head. And I couldn't get back to that school anymore. So, So they had to call my father now to come for me in the country. Because I thought that going back to Kingston would be the best thing for me. So my father decided to take me. So they put me on the market shop, send me off to Kingston, and he meet me at Dog Park, that is a place in Spanish Town where all the country shop would come in. They call it Dog Park. My father meet me there. What he did now, he said, "The last thing I'm gonna do with you now, because I'm tired of you," and he take me to the Alpha Boys Home. When I go to the Alpha Boys Home, I was there for a while, but what happened is that you have to line up for your food. And the place was not fenced up.
You have to do what for your food?
Line up with your plate. And
line up with your plate. Okay.
Yes, and things. So if you do anything, you would get punishment and all of those things there. And, I decided one day that I'm just going to leave, and I just walk out to the gate, because you don't have somebody to stop you going out because the place wasn't fenced up in those days. Alpha Boys Home was just over there and the fence was open, you know. So I just walk out and I had on short pants because every one of the boys wear short pants and khaki shirt. You know, it's a uniform. So as you see a boy on the street like that, you know him come from Alpha Boys Home because short khaki pants and his shirt, you know. So I had to head for the gully. When I went in the gully and going up, I would see in people's yard clothes on the line. So I changed my clothes and put on other clothes.
So you actually ran away from the home?
Yes. So I become a street boy. Wow. I met friends now that are run away and under the gully bridge and all of them things. So I begin to stay with them and make myself happy with them too. And one day I decided, no, I don't think I wanted to live like that because sometimes the other bigger boys abuse you, you know. So yes. I came out and suddenly I know this lady and I went up to her home up by Kingston Spring and she was a child's officer and she asked me some question and she said to me, I'm gonna let, and when she said like she gonna let them hold, I run off again. But after I run off, she makes somebody grab me and they take me up by Stony Hill. Mm-hmm. That Stony Hill have another place of safety for boys. While up by Stony Hill for another couple of days, I run off from there and take the gully again and come back downtown. And I go straight to her home. And she decided now to see my parents. So she said she wanted to see my father and I tell her everything. So she contacted my father. Same day put me in her car back. Contacted my father and my father tell him the reason why how everything went. And she said that he should never do that with me because I'm not a criminal or anything like that. So he used to find somewhere. So she recommended somewhere that he should take me, right? Okay. So he take me to Cosmopolitan Preparatory School that is on Lindus Road in Kingston. And I went there as a boarding school. A lot of boarders were there, Michael students and all people who come from the country and goes to Woolmal Girls School and all of the board at that home. So I went there to live with this lady and I as a boarder. But my dad left and he went off to America. And what happened is that the lady used me to help her around the house and help her to go to the market, help her to feed the pigs, help her to do, and I help her to do everything. And she called me her adopted son that she sent me every Saturday to carry theater 10 o'clock to go to show. And she buy nice clothes, put on me and shoes and she treat me good. And while I was there with her, I worked, the other boarders would say, I'm eating their parents' money. But I didn't mind that. I helped to work and to help her go to market and take care of them same one because no boarding money was being paid for me. So I have to work for it. Okay. Until she sent me to Norman Manley Secondary School in Maxim Park. Okay. And when I was going to Norman Manley Secondary School, in the evening she has evening class that she keep at her home there. She encouraged me to come to evening class. Mm-hmm. And if I don't come, she will say to me, you look, woman, and you can't read and write. And make me feel shame, so I have to go to class. Yes. And I was there with her. She had a twin son and daughter, Tony and Pressure. They loved me too, so I was there with them. She was a nurse. Tony was working at the telephone company, and I was there with them as their adopted brother. And you know, while there, my father came now and said, okay, he come from America and said to her that he made arrangement to send me to the Kabla Youth Camp in Manchester. So okay. She had to obey him then. So they packed me off, sent me to Kabla Youth Camp. So you actually left high school to go to the Kabla Youth Camp? Yes. Okay. Yes, to go to Kabla Youth Camp. Mm-hmm. Yes. So while at Kabla Youth Camp now, you spend 6 months working on the camp. And then the other 1 year you would learn your trade. So while working on the farm, it was enjoyable for me working on the farm, yes, and everything. And I used to go to the Jamal class at Tabla Youth Camp too. And what happened is that while there, when the time of the 6 months up now for me to start to learn a trade, if you can't read and write properly, you cannot get the trade that you would like. And I love car very much. So because I love car very much now, the test that I passed, I could do what I didn't want to do, like barbering, tailoring, and those things. I didn't want those trades. So I decided to leave camp. But leaving camp, you can't make anybody know that you're going to leave before time. So you'd have to go run away from there again. So now, the man who drives the truck to Kingston, he's a good friend of mine. So I told him that I want to go back to Kingston. And he said, all right, you're going to come at 5 o'clock in the morning, get up in the truck back and go under the chaparral up by the front and, and hide yourself under there until you reach Kingston. I will let you out. And I did so. And I went to Kingston and went right back to the ladies' home who I used to be with. When I go back to the ladies' home now, she accepted me and she loved me and she asked somebody to come and interview me from the garage. And she sent me off to learn the trade that I have now. So I started to learn this trade. Yes. While I was advancing this trade, that is Ken Cat in Arfetry, I was learning this trade. I get funded seeing the cyclists them riding down the street, going to training and going to stadium. And I fell in love with it. It looked so nice. So I decided to purchase myself a bicycle. So I went to the Central Police Station where they sell second-hand bicycle. And I buy a bicycle there. And I fixed that bicycle and turned it into a racing bicycle. And I always ride behind those boys as if, well, then I'm a cyclist to buy the helmet that they wear and all of that. Until one of the young men who I knew said to me that I can take you to stadium to join with us. I take you to the cycle coach. And he did so. So I went to stadium and he introduced me to the cycle coach. And from that moment, I started to ride with the Jamaica Amateur Cycle Association at the National Stadium. And I started to train with them at evening time, train with them in the morning time. And that was my sports while I was living with Miss Dennis at Miss Dennis' home. Cosmopolitan Preparatory School was the name of the place. There I learned my trade and I go to the stadium and ride. But what happened is that if you can go around the stadium track at 40 seconds, you can go any part of the world to ride to Jamaica. So what happened, I always do it, but I didn't have a sponsor because it was difficult to get a sponsor, you know. So I still continue riding until, you know, I come second in some races, not win. And third, I get all my medal. I went to St. Thomas and I get my medal, and when I go to stadium, I win races and get medals, you know, and thing. And I was enjoying that while learning trade. I ride with some great men and some good encouragement from them too, because I could remember riding with Christopher Chung, David Bella, those great men. And I enjoy riding with them. Because I remember since I become a big young man, I see David Bella become Jamaica. What you say now? Yeah, Sports of the Year. He was the Sportsman of the Year. Yes, I rode with bicycle with them. But after that, I got fed up because I didn't have a sponsor, so I decided to stop riding. So after I got fed up now and decided to stop riding at the stadium now because there was no sponsor for me there now, I buy a ordinary bicycle and sell the racing bicycle. And while there, I were still doing my Duke work as usual. And then now the lady decided to move from the Cosmopolitan Preparatory and mash up the school because she buy a house in Richmond Park, Kingston 10, and government want that place because it's a government yard. So when she decided, you know, she left me a room there because government was not ready exactly for the place. So she left me with a room there, and I was like the person would be in charge of the yard then because I'm the person there the longest, you know.
So Uncle Wayne, by this time, how old were you at this time now? By this time, you were how old?
Okay, I was about, I just said 6. It was about little after Jamaica get in the little after we started to use new money. But I would say now going up to 16, 17, those kind of age.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So you had actually done the course. You had actually done your Duco course, and you're.
I was still, yeah, the Duco work was something that was a process. I was still in advance then in my Duco work, still working at the garage. I learned trade at Fritada's garage in Kentucky, you know, with a man named Beja Brown, you know, and he works at many garages, but he was a sprayman, so he have us now as a preparer man them in the different garage. But I spend more time at Fritada's garage working under his portfolio.
Okay.
Right? So while working under his portfolio, I was never the Duke man on my own yet. I still work with somebody who's employed by the garage owner, right? So while there, I used to get like a sideline job to prepare car. So I would work on them in the back of the yard, same place where the lady, Miss Denny, had left me. Because she lived in Richmond Park. Sometime I wouldn't go up there to visit her, get some food from her to eat, if anything. She was like my mother, same way. So I would go up there, but it wasn't big enough for me to go up there to live.
Okay.
So I still stay down in the, yeah. Then now I start to get involved with all different type of friends in the yard, different friends now because I'm not right now stay them anymore. So start to smoke ganja, you know, start to do unruly things, go to dance at night time now, you know, and all because I have no one response for me.
Nobody, yes, sir. You're basically on your own at that age.
Yes, on my, yes, I begin to on my own. And that was just the type of jungle, you know. So I have a lot of jungle friends now, you know, and all of these things stop. Sometimes I go to chill at night because at the dance, you know, sometimes when the police raid and curfew the dance, anybody them catching you gone at jail, you know, until you can prove yourself as a working man or whatever, then you will come out and whatever. So life was like that with me, but I didn't really care, you know, and I lived there for a while until I think while living there for a while, I decided to move from there. So I moved and live in Kingston Gardens for a while and working at a garage called Speedy Garage because I left that garage that I used to work now and working at Speedy Garage now because trying to get on my own. Then I left Speedy Garage and I get another job at Red Hills Road at another garage. I keep moving because I love my trade. So I keep going from garage to garage, doing my trade same way, you know, and until I decided to move again. And I remember now living in Denham Town, yeah, Mt Carey Street. And that's where I was living for a long while. I could remember now I was living there until 1974. I remember when the war began in Denham Town and Turk War and all of that. Yes. So I decided to move from there. When I downtown, I saw my uncle and his girlfriend, and my uncle said, "Come, I show you my wife." And when I looked, the lady who I saw there was a lady who knew me from a little boy, and she used to work with my father as a domestic helper, which my uncle didn't even know. He said, "But I know Wayne. Is your nephew?" And yeah, right away them say the war going on down there. Mine there, they have to left and one them take me off. They take me to live in Bull Bay. Right where they live in one room. So I went to Bull Bay now to live with them. I left my bed, I left everything down at Denham Town. I never moved nothing at all because so much time engaged with police and all of them things that I just decided so boy I go and leave there. So I left there and went to live in Bull Bay with them. Moving up and down from one place to another, you know.
Yes.
So I decided to go by in Bull Bay and live. And while living in Bull Bay, I worked at 58 Hanover Street, the Lancers Garage, as my own Duke man, as do come on down there and working there for a long while and live in Bull Bay. Sometimes when the work is slow, I would end up work with a man, do some construction work up there because I love to work, until when things pick up, I get back downtown and I still work at the garage, at that garage, and decided to go on my own until many years after that. I think I becomes involved again with the politician gang them in 7 miles. Yes. And while in 7 miles and Hanover, I start to buy my bike and start to pursue with them and get bad name and things get rough for me and decide say, okay, I'm gonna leave Kingston.
Was it in Kingston that you had met? Was it in Kingston that you met the first lady that you had your first son with? Where?
Yes, in Hanover Fall. Yes, that's Hanover Fall. I met the first lady I got my first son with in Hanover Fall. Yeah. Okay. So we both were living together up there, rent a room and we're living. I moved out of my uncle's house, but was very close by. I was living still, and we had a fallout there. So after the fallout, I decided that I would go to the country. So she gave me some money and said, all right, go on to the country then. Go to Montego Bay. I just said you would want to go.
Okay. So, Uncle Wayne, what a great start to the first part of your story. That is where we're going to end part 1 of the story of Wayne Forrester today on Defying the Odds. I want you to stay tuned to hearing part 2 when it drops next week, because Wayne Forrester is going to continue this very interesting story of his life on part 2 of Defying the Odds. Uncle Wayne, thank you for coming today, and we will again meet for part 2 of your story.
Thank you, ma'am.